Welcome to the podcast. We talk about all the things that are hidden in the shadows.
This is Isaac, and on this bonus episode, I'm joined by fellow paranormal podcaster Tommy Cullum from Let's Get Freaky podcast, who I appeared on 4 times by the time you're listening to this episode, and most likely going to be on a 5th, but he's going to have me on the record for most appearances on his podcast, that's for sure. What's going on, dude?
How are you, man? Thank you for having me on your show. I'm excited. Yeah. Very excited.
4 times, I think. Have I been the most person on your show?
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure you are. Yeah, and we're going to do another one soon, so that will definitely be the record, 100%. So there is hours of me and you talking.
Yes.
Out there.
But yes. But no, that's. I mean, that's cool. I mean, no one. Granted, I've been on several podcasts and stuff like that, but no one's ever asked me back this amount of times. But yeah, it's usually one and done. Or like a lot of people have other people on their shows or something, like they put me on the back burner, and then like almost a year later, like, hey, we up to now? I'm like, all right, yeah, because by that time I've completed like 8 or 9 evolutions of my ability, and then like, what? And then we're talking for another 3 hours. But
yeah, you've experienced so much, man. And we normally finish recording, and then you'll tell me something else. And I'm like, oh, we got to do this again. We got to do it tomorrow. What are you doing tomorrow? But you've been so great, and you've come straight back on, and we've had, I'm learning your abilities, and it's incredible stuff, man.
And it's funny is that when I got into the podcast game like this, I never had my abilities. It didn't actually come to me until because we started in June and then July, August. So almost 5 months later, and it awoken, and I still didn't know what it was at the time. And then I had an interview with a paranormal team, local paranormal team, and that's how I got hooked up with them, and I got able to get practice, and I had a lead psychic on there who actually helped me out with getting my ability stuff to get and investigations we did. So that's how I got with there. But no, I guess today, a lot of people, I want people to know, especially my listeners, about your podcast, because you seem to interview. Well, your entire podcast is interview based, right?
Yep.
So, what was the origin of the podcast? Why did you start it in the first place?
Well, I've always been 100% fascinated with all things paranormal, ghosts, cryptids, UFOs. I've had experiences myself, so I've always been open to everything that's out there. Everything's possible to me, and I just love talking to people about it, man. I love hearing people's experiences and their faults as well. I find because everyone's got different opinions and different experiences, and I like putting it all together and trying to work out in my mind what's going on. But it's, as you know, it's very hard with the paranormal, because you go down one rabbit hole and it opens up the door to another 10. You're never gonna. I don't know if we're ever gonna get all the answers, but I enjoy learning. I'm enjoying hearing people's experiences and sharing my own experiences as well.
So is that why you picked the paranormal specifically, other than any other kind of platform?
Yeah, that's the subject that fascinates me the most. If I'm doing nothing and I'm sitting there and I'm looking for something to watch, it's probably going to be paranormal. I love it. I'm listening to other paranormal podcasts, and it's just a subject that's always fascinated me since I was a kid, since the start. It's always scared me. I've always found it quite, I never used to like talking about it, funny enough, but now I'm talking about it every night, and and I love it, man. I love it.
So did you have a lot, I guess, better questions. What are some of these paranormal experiences? Because obviously you had to leave an impression, and for you to be like, I want to talk more about this. I want to meet more people.
Yeah.
What was those experiences?
So what, with me personally?
Yeah.
So my experiences, my first big experience happened when I was 10 years old. I was always one of those kids when I was little that was scared of the dark. Since I can remember, I've always been scared of the dark. I've always felt like there's something there watching me. Always had that vibe, and I still do now, to be honest. But I grew up in a haunted house. The whole family. We used to get a bad feeling in there. There was always weird sounds. Things used to go missing, and the whole family sort of knew that the house we was in was haunted growing up. And one night, me and my brother shared a room, and I was on the top bunk, brother was on the bottom bunk, and I woke up. It was during the night. I'm not sure exactly what time it was, but there was a man sitting there at my desk, full bodied, and I've just obviously I'm terrified. I've screamed for my mum. She's come in the room. This man is still sitting there, but she can't see him. And I'm like, Mum, there's a man in the room. And I was hysterical. Obviously, I was 10 years old, and she was telling me to calm down. She was going up to my desk, and this man never moved, but I could still see him, but my mum could never see him. And because I was one of those kids that was always getting up during the night and going into my mum and dad's room, and I was 10 years old now, I think my mum and dad were fed up of it. And my mum got a bit angry at the time, was like, no, you're staying in your room, you're going to bed. And I'm like, I was hysterical. I was petrified. But I remember just going under my covers and just sweating. And my mum obviously left me in the room. And I just remember just looking, and this man was still sitting there at my desk in our room the whole night. Somehow I fell asleep that night and woke up the next morning. He wasn't there. But from that moment on, from seeing that ghost entity, whatever it was, I knew that there was a lot more to this world, man. That was my first big experience. That, yeah, it was a terrifying one at the time, but I'm sort of glad now that it happened and I saw that.
And I never had such a thing when I was a kid, except for the things on the ranch that I've talked about on this podcast numerous times. It's funny, I've never seen anything straight on, like see it like straight on. And you think about all the stuff I've encountered, I would had a had an experience. The only thing ever was seeing a shadow figure um, kind of like have its shoulders up and like twist its head at me. That was like about a good, I don't
Oh,
know, 50 yards away. But that's
yeah,
like I looked at it like, is that am I looking at what I'm seeing? I was confused for a second, but thought came to mind is like the balls on this thing to do that. Like after what I've been doing that location, that basically say you gonna come get me,
yeah,
But even when I was a kid, I never really saw anything that straight on. It was I kind of like when I was getting into the paranormal thing, I was kind of wanted to see something. Like I wanted to see it, but I've never
yeah,
seen anything out in the third. Well, occasionally I would see something in the corner of my eye, but never like right in front of me. Yeah.
yeah. This man sitting there it was just like a man was sitting there. Like if I was walking through the park and there was a man sitting at the bench, it wasn't see-through or anything like that. This guy was solid. So if I was walking through the park and I see this dude sitting there, I'd be like, because this guy looked like William Shakespeare. That was I'm not saying it was William Shakespeare, but that sort of seemed like the era that he was dressed. And he had like long brown hair and a little beard and like a brown suit on, very old school looking guy. So if I see him in the street, I'd be like, that's a weird dude. Like, he's dressed a bit, out of date but I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know it was a ghost. This was solid, just a man sitting there. It was wild, man.
And then from that point on, did you continue to have experiences, or was it like very sporadically after your life?
I did see something else in that house, another full solid figure. This was slightly different though. I was in my mum and dad's bedroom and I was sort of playing about. They had mirrors in their room and I was doing something in front of the mirrors, being silly, whatever I was doing. And this naked blonde lady walked past me. And I just thought it was my mum because she was blonde and she would sometimes walk around the house naked. So this lady's walked past me and gone into my mum and dad's bathroom that they had in their bedroom. And I've just started talking to her, Mum, da da da, whatever I said. And I walked to the bathroom, walked into the bathroom, and there was no one there. And I was like, I just remember being so like confused. And I ran downstairs and my mum was there, fully clothed. And I was like, Mum, did you just walk past me in your bedroom? And she's like, No, of course I didn't. What are you talking about? I saw a blonde. It was again, it wasn't see-through. Um, it was a solid. This was more in the corner of my eye, but it was a solid. There was a blonde lady there. That's what I saw. So that was the only other time that I saw something in that house. Used to hear weird things and hear noises and get weird feelings and you always felt like you was being watched sometimes, stuff like that. But seeing that were the two times in that house that I actually saw something.
And then that's from your childhood home. When you moved out, I guess throughout your early 20s and stuff like that, did you experience it anywhere else, or it wasn't until you moved into the home you're currently in now?
So we moved to, so when I was 12, we left that house, went to another house, and I did eventually see things in that house as well. But the weird thing about that is the first night we was in that new house, I remember being in my new bedroom, and I had my own room this time. And I remember laying down in the dark. I there, there was no curtains in the room, so it was quite light. There was light coming in, but I just remember finding it so strange that I wasn't scared. I'd been so scared the whole time in the other house, you know, really bad sleeping, um, always waking up and just never settled really. And I just found it so strange. I was in a new house, in a new room, and I was like, I'm not scared. This is weird. So that was the first sort of thing that hit me moving house, the difference between how it felt. Eventually I did see something in that house though, when I was 21. So this is obviously skipping forward a bit, but I was at university at the time. So during the week I was living at uni in London, and then I'd come home for the weekends. And me and my brother were back sharing a room again at this point. So we had a conversion upstairs, and me and my brother basically had our own sort of flat in the house. So I woke up one night and there was a shadow figure standing over my bed, the shape of a man standing over my bed. And I've jumped out my skin. I was terrified. I thought it was my brother just being stupid or whatever during the night. So I've tried to punch this shadow figure. I've obviously made a bit of a noise doing this, and as I've gone to punch it, it's disappeared. And my brother on the other side of the room turned the light on. I was like, "Bruv, what's the matter? You okay? Are you okay? What's going on?" And I was like, "I thought you were standing over me. Like there was something standing over me." And at the time, I didn't really know about shadow figures and things like that. And obviously, I'd seen a ghost and things like that, but I didn't know about shadow figures. I didn't. When people say, you see these things that are darker than the room, that's exactly what this was. It was pitch black in the room, but this thing was the outline was darker than the dark. And yeah, that terrified me, man. And I didn't really understand what it was until a bit later on. And then I was like, that was a shadow figure.
When you punched it, when your hand went through the space that it was it temperature different in that space? You
I didn't
recall?
really notice. I didn't really know. I think I was just so scared and just, it was just a reaction to punch this thing. But I thought it was my brother. I thought he was just, I don't know why he's standing over me while I'm sleeping. It freaked me out so much. And I just remember the fear and just going for it and just going through it and again being shocked. But at the time I sort of put it down to being stressed at university. And I just sort of played it out of my mind, basically. I said, you didn't see that, I just sort of, but then learning more about this sort of stuff and experiencing it again, I experienced that again. But yeah, it was the description of what a shadow figure is.
I never got an opportunity to get that close. Granted, I never allowed them to get that close, so that
Mm.
I can actually swing out and hit them. Um,
Yeah.
that's funny. I've heard of videos people trying to fight ghosts, thinking that if you swing hard enough at it, you'll hit something. But like, no, it doesn't work. It's like
Nah.
punching air.
If I'd known it was a shadow figure, I don't think I'd try and hit it. It's because I thought it was my brother. I literally, but yeah, man, very strange, really weird to wake up and see something standing there as well. It's terrifying, man.
And then, was there anything after that? So you moved into your current house?
I had a UFO experience in the other house, but I can get into that. Staying on the shadow figure path and the ghost path. Did I experience anything else in that house? I don't think I did. So after that house, I moved, I met my wife, moved in with her mum and dad, and then we moved into a flat ourselves. And that was, we felt that there was something in the flat that we was living in at the time. I didn't see anything in that flat, but there was weird noises. My wife heard something whisper in her ear one night, which was quite scary. Um, I remember one night me and my wife were just in bed, and our daughter's room was so we had our front room, and then our daughter's room was beyond that room, so you had to walk through the front room to get to our room. And we literally was laying there and we heard what we thought was our little girl wake up, and we literally heard her bouncing out of bed, running through the front room, running down the hallway, and we're just expecting to see her come out, and there was no one there. And we were like, that's weird. But we wasn't in that flat for too long. But yeah, my next moving to this house that I'm in now actually is where I started getting more experiences. And that might be something to do with starting a podcast and talking about paranormal stuff, because I feel like when I started it, that sort of things ramped up, which is quite interesting. I experienced the waking up during the night to something standing there. I've had that 3 times in this house. I also woke up recently, quite recently, woke up and I thought my wife was sitting up in bed, and I've sort of got up to rub her back and see what was wrong with her. And I've gone through whatever this thing was and looked down and my wife's laying there. That was freaky. That was quite recently. But yeah,
Yeah, because I remember clearing out your stuff. You're talking about there's something still there, or there's something just came new.
in this house.
Yeah.
No, no, sorry, no. Since you cleared out, nothing's happened. This
Okay.
is
I was
this
like,
is before that. Yeah, since you cleared out, nothing has happened. A
yeah, because the
big
stuff.
experiences that I've missed in. So this is weird as well. So in the flat that I lived in before the house that I'm in now, I had, and at the time, and I still am not 100% sure, but I used to get really bad sleep paralysis, really bad. I used to get it once, twice a week, sometimes more, for the whole course that I was in that flat, which was a long time. So that was something I had to deal with for a long time.
I always had a theory about people who can have consistent sleep paralysis is that they also have an innate ability to astral project if they focused it enough. Because you've already learned to essentially disconnect your thought from your body. It's all about getting out of it after that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But it does feel like that is what's happening when I'm having the paralysis. I get a vibration that goes through me that at first is quite a nice feeling. And it's like a vroom, vroom. And then all of a sudden, there's something in the room that I'm battling. And then I wake up from that. Or I say wake up. When I have sleep paralysis, I'm trying to go to sleep. I'm not asleep and waking up and having the attack. I'm trying to go to sleep and I slip into the paralysis. For me, it's before I fall asleep.
It only happened well, I had it like maybe 3 times, but astral projected out of my body at least once. And that was a strange situation. But that was like I was so angry at the fact that I was getting attacked that I couldn't do anything. That kind of, basically pushed me out of myself. But yeah, sleep paralysis is nothing like that. And it always frustrates me when I hear people say there's scientific reasons behind it. Yes, the scientific part is that your body's disconnecting. But why does everyone, regardless of where they lived, how they lived, with what they were told, what they've watched their entire life, all see the same thing? They see
Yeah,
dark shadows, they see a hag, they see a hat man. It's always the same thing, regardless of who it is and where they are. That kind of
yeah,
phenomenon doesn't repeat for everyone anywhere. If it was all different based on people's fears, I can understand that. But this is all the same exact thing. So that's why I'm like, there's more to it than just what you might think. So
yeah,
yeah.
100%, man. And that what I used to experience was a hag. And because I used to see this thing in my mind's eye, because I couldn't look around the room, but I could feel it normally in the corner of the room. And it was like a black mass of just evil, is how I can describe it. It didn't look like a lady witch or anything like that. It just looked like a black mass of just evilness. But I knew it was a hag. I knew it was a witch, and I was getting this so often, and I used to just put it down to being stressed. I never used to. I knew it wasn't normal, but I never even used to talk about it. I never used to tell my wife about it. I never used to tell anyone about it. And it was only sort of looking into to sleep paralysis and things like that, and hearing the connections that other people have, and how it's so similar, like you just said. And I was
Yeah.
like, there's got to be something to this, you know?
Well, the things that took to replace, because we know we talked about it on your podcast, but for everybody who hasn't heard, and essentially it was a tall man with the long dark hair, uh, a hag, or like essentially a witch kind of woman, and then a lower, very small tiered goblin looking demon thing.
Yeah.
Um, that
Yeah. Well,
all took place. Yeah.
that's why I was so blown away when you said it, because other mediums had said it to me as well and described the same sort of entities. And when you said that, I was like, because the hag's been there. As I said, in this house, I do get sleep paralysis, but it's very rare. So I don't know why that is. I don't know if there was a connection between the flat that I was in. I do get it in this. I've had it, a handful of times here, but it's not like it was. I've been here now 2.5 years, and it's not many times where it was weekly where I was before. But when you said that as well with the small entity, I had an experience literally a couple of weeks before where I just finished an interview. It was about 3 o'clock in the morning. And I went downstairs to make myself a cup of tea just to relax after the interview. And I was literally making a cup of tea, not thinking about anything. And I heard in my ear very clearly, Dad. And it was just it was very strange. And I turn around and I'm expecting to see one of my kids there. That's how clear it was. And there was no one there. Looked in the hallway, no kids. The wife, kids, dogs, everyone's asleep upstairs. And I was like, wow. And then when you said about the young goblin
Well, it
demon
was a
entity,
yeah, it was a boy. It was a little boy. But when I burned away its disguise, then I saw the little goblin demon inside.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
So when you said that, man, it all clicked, and I was like, oh wow.
yeah. I was like, I never, because I thought to myself, I was like, I've never pulled a child before, and that's strange. And then I remember that often demons portray themselves as children in order to make you comfortable, so you allow them in, and you feel less threatened by their presence. So that's why I
Yeah,
grabbed and basically burned away its disguise, and then I saw the little goblin demon thing inside. I was like, ah, there you are, you son of a bitch. Um,
man, yeah. But I have to say, I've not experienced any. That was what was that 4 weeks ago now, 3 or 4
yeah,
weeks ago. I've not experienced anything since then. I've
that's good.
not a feeling, not not anything. Because as you know, the room that I'm recording in now was the haunted room of the house where the kids, my two daughters, this was their room, and they were having terrible night sleeps in here and waking up constantly during the night and getting bad feelings, and my wife gets a bad feeling in this room. So I was like, let's move them out. I'll have that as my studio room. I'll deal with it. Because I wasn't getting a bad vibe really. But yeah, this is where you saw one of the entities and pulled it out. So, and
That corner, the opposite to you. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And I had someone else, Zoe Quinn, message me saying that she felt that there was something in the exact same corner, like a hag, like you said as well. So when you said it, I was like, wow, you know.
It is what's strange. I never asked you this, but why? Where did you come up with the name Let's Get Freaky?
It's a good question, man. I'm not too sure. I don't know, because I used to, and even still now, let's get freaky can mean obviously spooky stuff, and it can mean something else as well. You can attract, yeah, So I don't know, man. I don't know where. I just said it one day. Said to the missus, "What do you think of that?" And she was like, "Yeah, that's cool for what you want to do." And it just stuck, and that was it. And now it just feels right. I don't know. I don't know. It's a good question because it was obviously I was going through loads of different names. It's quite difficult to think of a good name, and then that just came out.
Yeah. Well, I have to thank our me and Megan's father, or her dad, my father-in-law. for Hidden in the Shadows. He was because we were like because I think that's when they her parents were living with us for a short time, and we were trying to figure out a name for it because we had Not Your Average Conversation, which was our original podcast that me and Megan did. It lasted maybe 15 episodes before we just could put it. But we were like, should we like Not Your Average Paranormal Conversation, add on? And like, I don't know, it doesn't seem right. And then I think her dad said something like, you guys are always talking about stuff that are like, or that's in the shadows. When you come with something like that, like in the shadows, like what's hidden in the shadows. And we're like, there it is.
Yeah. It's a
Yeah, that sounds
great
good.
name, man.
Yeah.
It is a great name.
Because then I figured out the catch line. The podcast we talk about all the things that are hidden in the shadows. So, and occasionally some things are in the light, but majority of it's hidden. But yeah, and then we like that thing kind of stuck, and then we of course use it for our paranormal team now too. So,
Yeah.
because we hunt what's hidden in the shadows, so that makes more sense. So
Yeah,
yeah,
man.
I just thought
Yeah.
maybe like you talked about like maybe there was like conversation topic or not conversation topic. You were talking about well, I'm going to talk about paranormal stuff, so let's get freaky. Like
Yeah,
there.
that's what it was. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, 100%. That's what it was. And I remember I got the name pretty quick. Like the name, it came to me pretty quick, and I was like, you know what, that's it. That feels right, and it's
yeah.
you can't change it. That's the problem. Once you go so far, you can't really change it. But I like it. I do like it. But as I say, I do get sometimes the wrong attention.
Yeah, get freaky. Is this about
You
porn?
like getting freaky? Yeah. Not that sort of freaky, you know?
How long has the podcast been going?
So it'll be 2 years this July. So
Oh, okay.
it's
So
gone
you
pretty
started.
quick.
Well, let's say quick. You started a little bit after pandemic, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah, man. I
yep,
think the pandemic's a big reason what sort of got me, what pushed me to do it, really. It was something I wanted to do for a long time. And I used to listen to other paranormal podcasts, and I used to think, I'd love to do that, man. I will one day. I'll do that one day. And then obviously the pandemic happened, and you suddenly didn't get tomorrow. You
yeah,
was so once that happened, and we were free again. We was me and my wife were like, let's move to where we want to live. So we moved to a completely different place. I left my job, which I didn't want to do forever anyway, and I wouldn't have been able to do the podcast how I do it now if I'd stayed in that job. I just wouldn't have got the time. So we had to make a lot of big moves to do what we're doing now. But I'm enjoying it, man.
that's good. I know because we were born from the pandemic because I still worked through it. I didn't have any time off like everybody else. Uh, but we also didn't we wouldn't really go anywhere or do anything. And I was listening to a lot of podcasts at the time, but I was frustrated with paranormal podcasts because I kept finding like I'd find like cherry pick here this one, but I always would find a podcast that always felt like it was putting on a show, like a character. And I didn't
Hmm.
like to hear that. I wanted to hear real stories from real people talking like a conversation about paranormal stuff. So I was frustrated with it, and I told my wife, "You know what? Let's start one. Right? Let's start a podcast. Let's talk about some of everything." And we talked about everything, but we found that the paranormal episodes were far exceeding everything else. It was like, all right, let's dump everything and just do paranormal stuff, and then that took off to where it is now. Um, Doing that since 2020, yeah, June of 2020. So right in the
Yeah,
midst of it, and then they didn't start investigating until 2021 because I haven't been investigating very long, but in my short time investigating, I've seen a lot of things that most people haven't seen an entire lifetime investigating. So
yeah,
yeah,
man. Yeah, that's something I'd like to do as well. Is get out and investigate a little bit. It's something I've not. I've been to obviously a lot of haunted places and had experiences, but actually going out and investigating is not something I've done, and I'd like to do it.
you guys got a lot of teams in the UK.
Yeah, yeah, man. There's a lot. Yeah, there's some near me as well. I was thinking of starting my own, maybe,
Not
but
everyone.
yeah,
Yeah,
I've got a few friends that say they'll come out with me and stuff. But yeah, that is something I'd like to do at some point.
no. And if you do start out, I guess small. I don't know. I always say graveyards are always a good way to test your
Yeah,
how how you interact with spirits, right? There's not always not a lot of spirits depending on the graveyard, but I guess ones you find. Well, graveyards you guys got there got to have people from like 800 AD there. So
Oh
um,
man, yeah,
it
yeah, for
has a
sure.
little bit around there.
And I live right next to a forest it's got some legend and lore there, man. It's a haunted forest, I would say. There's a lot of so that's where I think I'm going to start.
Yeah, yes, any investigator in America, one of the places they would love to investigate, and they always say England because that you're a small island. Granted, it's smaller than most of our states, but has so
Mhm.
much history and death and great famous hauntings that everyone's like anywhere, just throw a pin, you might find
Oh
somewhere to
yeah,
talk.
man. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%. I mean, I've got a castle just down the road that I believe was, I always get this wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's 12th century and it was built by William the Conqueror. I'm pretty sure it's 12th century. And that's literally just down the road. That's obviously got a lot of ghost stories there, man, that's for sure. But everywhere you look, there's old buildings and. So yeah, we've got a lot of spooky stuff here.
yeah, not a short supply. Um,
Yeah.
out of all the interviews you've done so far, which if you've been doing it for 2 years, how many episodes are you up to?
So at the moment we're into 160s. We're in there, but yeah, I've got more to go. So I probably recorded about 180, whatever it is. But yeah,
Um,
we've recorded a lot.
That's one thing that me and Megan always have a problem with is having a lot of episodes in the bank. So all we have to do is just release them. A lot of what we record is like literally days before, and then we put it out. But then again, we
That's
always
cool.
we have the paranormal team, and then we have cases from people asking for help with their homes and stuff like that. So we're always doing something. So it's not. It's like wish we had free time to basically just sit and record episode after episode, but often we even get that chance to do that. But I was gonna
Yeah.
say, out of all the episodes you've recorded, who I guess what was your most interesting interview besides myself?
Yeah, I was
Um,
gonna say, man,
besides
the
myself
Duke,
that you
Duke
that
called
you've talked.
Isaac.
Yeah.
That's difficult, and I get asked this a lot because so many of them blow my mind. As you know, I find even the little experiences that people have fascinates me. Trying to think. I interviewed the. Have you heard of the Olney brothers?
No.
So they're really cool. They've had a lot of experiences, and the last time I interviewed them together, I mean, I think you get used to talking about this stuff. So once you finish the interview, you dust it off and it's gone. But then sometimes you talk to people and their story scares you so much that you're like looking over your shoulder when you finish the interview. And this was one of them times, man, because they were telling me experiences, and I think something fell off the wall while they were talking in my house, and I jumped because it was, you know, um, but they told me this clowns really freak me out. I don't like clowns, and they bought this little toy clown from a thrift shop, and they said they had this clown in the house, and Jesse one night he was on his own in the house and he could hear this clown talking to him. And I know that sounds wild, and he said the same thing, like, "What's going on?" And he's took this clown and he's talking to him. Yeah, and I know that sounds crazy, but he's put it in the back of his car, and he's like, "I'm taking this clown and I'm getting it. I'm getting rid of it." Because he was obviously that scared of it, and he could hear this clown as he's driving off to get rid of it, shouting at him in the back of the car, banging, and I was just like, "Oh man, that is terrifying." Because yeah, not cool. But that was one that definitely stuck with me. God, there's been so many, man. What I find interesting when I put an episode out and I get a lot of people messaging me saying um, that was basically their story as well. When I put an episode out and then I might get messages from people saying I experienced exactly the same thing. And I will always ask, like, do you want to come on and share your story? And they're like, no, I just wanted to let you know that, that's what I experienced as well. And, I find that very interesting when I get that.
No. I've well, I think I've had maybe 50 interviews. I know there's got to be more out of the entire time, and most of them have been paranormal investigation teams. A few podcasts. Couple of psychics, and then of course we had our roundtables and stuff like that, which I always suggest to you. Like, if you ever have an idea for an episode, I always like tell anybody, especially if you strictly do in interviews, is to have a group of people like 4 or 5 together with all the same kind of mindset and just here to
Hmm.
discuss about a
Yeah,
certain subject. Yeah, remember when we first did that? That was interesting because like, and a lot of people that we had in the thing never met each other, and after that they became friends. So you actually make
yeah,
connections
man.
with people, stuff like that. But I kind of want to do a lot more of those come this year and stuff like that. But
No, sorry, I was going to say I like doing them sort of shows as well, where you've got a group of you, and you as you say, like-minded, and you bounce off ideas and stuff like that. I find that interesting.
my it's funny. I've interviewed a lot of people, but I guess my favorite that I've actually had on the show was Carl Johnson. Most people don't know what he is, but some people don't know who he is because he's old school. And when I say old school, I mean he was investigating at the same time the Warrens were. Yeah,
Okay.
and he
Yeah.
was actually the guy that got the Warrens involved in the Conjuring House in the first place.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, him and his brother and their team were working the Conjuring House, and they basically told Ed and Lorraine Warren, "Hey, you guys might want to come check this place out."
Wow, man.
Yeah, but he's been in the game a long time, and this was like, I don't know. The podcast was maybe 4 months old, and one of, I guess, his assistant has actually heard our podcast and wanted him to come on ours, so that's how we even got in touch with him. So I was like,
That's cool,
Carl
man.
Johnson, why does that name sound familiar? And we looked him up, like, holy shit, yeah.
But that's what's great about podcasting is you can meet, especially in the paranormal world, you can meet the most amazing people. Like, I've had people on the show that I've bought their books in the past, I've watched them on telly, and then I'm talking to them on Let's Get Freaking. I'm like, this is mad. This is like a mad dream, Like you can meet like your heroes in the paranormal.
Yeah, my white whale is one of the members from Ghost Adventures.
Which
That's my white whale.
which one? Can I ask you which one?
If I had a preference, I would say Nick, but I feel like Aaron would be more fun to have to talk
Yeah,
to. Zach might be just, let's make it about me the entire time, but Nick, I feel like he would be like very like educational in his conversations when it comes to stuff. But
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I'd love to talk to any of them guys. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah,
Uh,
man.
it's a possibility, but ever since then, there hasn't been anybody to be on the top of the paranormal investigation world since Ghost Adventures. But then again, that was a time when that popularity was at an all-time high. And Ghost Adventures, ghost hunting shows, they have still have popularity, but it's like you're playing the same song in a different
Hmm.
tuning and trying to get the same popularity from it. It doesn't hit the same way when you're doing the same thing as everyone else has been doing or still is doing. You might
Yeah,
add something, you might have a different idea how to get better evidence, but you're still doing the same stuff. And
yeah,
unless a new, I guess, a new tune is thrown in there, the paranormal hunting show is not going to have any popularity past YouTube, right? So, I mean, granted, there's a lot of good investigators out there who do unique things and might go to some different places, have different ideas when it comes to it, but it's still the same old song, still playing the same thing and trying to get more people to like it. It's like you're gonna have the fans who grew up with it, like myself, when watching the original episode of Ghost Avengers, but it's still the same stuff. And sometimes you find someone who you like doing it versus someone else who you're like, they're all right, nothing special. But
yeah.
and
Did you
sometimes
watch? Did you watch Most Haunted back in the day, which was the UK Yvette Fielding? It was Derek Acora, Yvette Fielding, and I don't know if it was I don't know if it was. I think it was before Ghost Adventures, I believe.
I remember watching Ghost Hunters when I started watching paranormal shows. Because I remember I was at work, and so I worked overnight, and Ghost Hunter was on TV because it was the only thing that was on that late worth any entertainment, like middle of the night, like 2 or 3 in the morning. And I remember I
Yeah.
was sitting with my brother, and we were on break, and we were watching it, and it was that famous scene where they're in some kind of lighthouse, and the one of the guys comes upstairs and there's a chair next to the door, and he drags the chair to the center of the room to do a we call it an EVP session. And he catches and stuff. One of the guys calls him downstairs, and he goes downstairs. The camera's in the room, full shot, and he leaves, and he's walking down the stairs, and he's gone for maybe 20 seconds, and you see the chair slide across the room back to next to the door. And we're like, what? Like that. And they saw the footage, and it was like, holy crap. That was like, I guess, like one of like the first seasons of Ghost Hunters when they caught that footage, along with a lot of other things. But I didn't like the fact that they were like trying to prove the place wasn't haunted, and they had like a production camera crew follow them around, so they seemed really overproduced. But when I saw Ghost Adventures, that was awesome, because there were three regular dudes, but three dudes with handheld cameras in locations by themselves. I was like, yeah, this is cool, because like everything they catch, it seems extremely authentic, right?
Yeah, man.
So, but then once you know how the sausage is made, so the terminology I use, basically once you know how investigations goes and stuff like that, when you watch them now, you're like, oh, okay, you're putting on a show, because they act like it's day one. And I've been doing this. I did it for over a year, and I didn't react that same way. I didn't get, oh my god, like get freaked out and stuff like oh my god, right? Overexcited by like a simple UEP. I was like, now I get it. They've been doing it for 20 years, and they're acting like it's day one. No, you're putting a show on. You're trying to overreact so people are entertained. Okay, I get it now. So that kind of it lost its luster for me.
That's the problem with all the TV stuff, really.
Yeah,
is that they've got to get a certain level of excitement. Like we all say, we'd like you to go and investigate a place, like you get a lot on YouTube, where people will only put real evidence that happened. Sometimes with these TV shows, do they make things that I don't know. I mean, I presume they do sometimes, but because they have to, something has to happen, for it to be shown on TV. But I don't like, obviously, I don't like that. The fact that it might not be.
Any investigator who's been in it for a couple of years, ask them about Ghost Adventures. It's a polarizing subject.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hate him or no? I was like, I understand who Zach is, and I appreciate everything he's done, because I wouldn't have gotten investigating if it wasn't for Ghost Adventures. A lot of investigators in my age range would never have gotten into paranormal investigating if it wasn't for Ghost Adventures. So
yeah,
we appreciate what he laid the groundwork for, but we're like, hey, can you pull back on the showmanship?
yeah, man. I mean, the Ghost Adventures here in the UK, like it's probably on telly on some channel now. It's always on. You can always find it on telly at some point. It's a great show. It's as you say, it's done a lot for the paranormal world.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Our show is, we dabble in everything, but about 90% of what we talk about is paranormal. But and that's because that's what surrounds our life, or amongst it's kind of the main thing. But I always wonder, you talk to a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds, but what is like always your favorite subject to talk about with anyone in the paranormal world?
That's a great question, man. That's a great question. I generally love it all, but when someone brings up something to do with Bigfoot, I get very excited, because Bigfoot, I probably started listening to Bigfoot podcasts before paranormal podcasts. It's because the Bigfoot subject has fascinated me for years as well. So when people have had a Bigfoot encounter and they're telling me that, I mean, that I could listen to that all day, man. It just fascinates me. But I love it all, man. I really do. I find everyone's experience amazing.
Bigfoot was always kind of the thing that we left on the shelf for like 2 years. It was only until late last year that we actually did a Bigfoot episode. We talked about cryptids. We brought them up briefly, but we never put like a full episode in. And then after we learned everything we did, we're like, oh, we got to break this up in 2 episodes. So we had a Bigfoot 1 and 2, just because there's so much information about them. I was like, now I understand why there's podcasts dedicated just to Bigfoot. So
yeah,
it's like it never ends. It's like there's so much information, and you have reports from all across the world and different names and stuff like that. And I was just like, holy crap. Like, where did it come from? Was it Yeti in the Himalayas, or was it a Sasquatch in the Canadian areas? I was like, I don't know. I have a friend in Canada who lives in the Vancouver area where Sasquatch originally supposedly was first sighted. I asked him, "Do you have like any like Bigfoot museums or something like that?" He's like, "No, we have a hotel that's like dedicated to Sasquatch stuff."
Oh
Yeah,
wow, I want to
yeah,
go there, man.
yeah,
But you just said that Bigfoot has been in, all around the world in legend and lore. It's everywhere. China,
yeah.
Russia, the UK. These things are in, our folklore and legends. They've always been there. And people still see them now all around the world, I just find it so interesting. I've talked to people in Scotland that have seen them in Scotland. And, I think the big debate with the Bigfoot is it a supernatural or is it a flesh and blood? That can cause a lot of tension in the Bigfoot world. I'm sort of in the middle. I don't know, man. I think there could be a supernatural element to them, but these things that they're seen so often and so many people have seen them, I just find it fascinating. I really do. I'd love to see one. That's the dream one day.
Well, the thing is, if they ever caught a Bigfoot like in a cage or something like that, 10 to 1 odds, the average folk would never know. It's most likely the government will capture it, prison it, put it somewhere, test it. They
Yeah,
might have already have. We didn't even know. So
yeah, man. There's
um,
people claim to have killed these creatures, and you know,
that's the only way they can never find their skeletons like that, or they disintegrate. Or that theory I talked about in your podcast, like a new Bigfoot is born from an old Bigfoot, and it's like kind of repeats over and over again, like a
yeah,
shell.
yeah, man. Who knows? I mean, it could be. I read a book called Enoch, and a guy in the book, a lady's writing this about a guy that she met, and long story short, this guy witnessed a Bigfoot burying another Bigfoot underneath a tree. Like he literally pulled the tree out, put the Bigfoot in, put the tree back down. I know that sounds crazy, but if these things are as strong as possibly they say, who knows? But that was a theory that this guy claimed that he'd seen happen. I don't know, but it's interesting.
That'd be a good way to hide them.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
man.
One thing I always like to ask fellow podcasters, for anyone who listens to other podcasts, what would be advice you would give to someone who's thinking about getting into the podcast game?
Just do it. Just go for it. Just do it because you're never going to be. Like, I'm still learning. I don't know what I'm doing still. 2 years in. But before I started, I didn't know about editing. I didn't know about putting a podcast out. I didn't know anything. And I was listening to a podcast and they were talking about just go for it. Just do it. Just do it now. And obviously we just had the pandemic. So I was in the mindset of we don't have tomorrow. And I just started doing it. And I think that's just what you got to do. Just do it. Just stick with it. There's going to be times where it's difficult, but you just got to if you enjoy doing it, just do it and just, yeah, have fun doing it and have fun learning as you go. That would be my advice.
And what is your hope for the future of the paranormal?
My hope is that I do think people are more acceptance of people's experiences now. I do think most people would say that there's a lot more going on in this world than what they say. My hope for that, I mean, I'd love to get all the answers, man, and know exactly what is going on, where we go, you know. As you know, there can be a lot of division in the paranormal. A lot of everyone wants to be the best team, everyone wants to be the best podcast, whatever. But I'd like to just see a real unity in everyone, just respecting each other's opinions and thoughts on the paranormal because we've all got different opinions. Um, yeah, man, it's a tough question. I'm not sure. I'd just like to get more answers, I guess, would be my. I want to know what's going on, man.
So do we all. So
Yeah, yeah,
even me, who's encountered a lot of stuff, I don't have it all
yeah.
figured.
You're
Um,
getting there. You're getting there, though.
yeah, few more experiences, few more answers, but still a lot of unanswered questions. Every time I think I have an answer, it opens up a new, branch of more questions. I'm like, crap on the crackers. They're never going
Yeah,
to end. Um, like one of my fears that I don't think our, I guess we want to say our third dimensional minds are capable of understanding everything. We'll
Yeah,
get a good generalization of what it is, but you don't truly know until after you move from this world to the next. Then it makes more sense because your mind's capable of understanding it, which is like,
yeah,
well, that just sucks.
yeah, yeah. No, for sure. But I think it is too much for us to really know, as you just said, man. I think we're not gonna know
Until it's over.
until
Well,
it's over.
it is fest.
Well, until the next.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We start over again. Tommy, I appreciate you coming on and
Thank
telling
you,
me about
man.
everything. Yeah. Where can everybody find your podcast?
So we're on all the podcast platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, we are. I've started putting some episodes on YouTube as well, so we're on YouTube, social media, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X, we're everywhere, man. Let's get freaky. Tommy Cullum's Let's Get Freaky podcast. Yeah, if you've had an experience, you're more than welcome to come and talk to me and share your experiences. Just thank you so much for letting me come on your show, man. It's been an honor, and
Well,
keep up the great work, brother.
uh, well, it's a small road to get us matched in equality when it comes to appearances. So, yeah, 4 more times, like geez. uh, but I appreciate it coming on. For everyone, you can catch our socials at Hidden in the Shadows Podcast on Instagram, Hidden in the Shaw 6 on X, Hidden in the Shadows Podcast 2 on TikTok, or links to all our social media. And always you can listen to us at hiddenshadowspodcast.com. As always, we'll catch your weirdos in the next one.